All right, guys. Hey, what is up? So I'm going to do another session here. A little inspiration because we did one the other day with Amir Rosic, and we're talking about zero to hero stories. And I've got Ron Ipach on with me, and he's a guy that I met several years ago in Baja, Mexico. Actually, we were doing a business adventure trip, and we spent the better part of probably a day or two straight driving through desert in an off-road dune buggy. And you shared some really intimate stories that I thought that my audience here would really like to hear. Now, Ron's from Ohio, so he's got a bit of a funny accent. He probably thinks I sound like a whack job when I talk, but most of my clients are in Canada. You've got a really interesting story because you hit rock bottom. Like, you were at a point where you were making $8,000 a year. You barely had enough money to make ends meet, and now you've created this very successful business where you're making considerably more than that, even monthly. So give me the kind of before story, what was going on, because you were skipping across the bottom for a long time. And I want you to kind of share that story because people find it hard to make a move to get out of debt. They are only willing to make that change if they feel that they can land safely on the other side. So it scares the crap out of them. So talk to me about what was going on in your life then.
Yeah, well, thanks. First off, thanks for having me on this. I really enjoy these kinds of videos. I love talking and I love watching these things. So I appreciate you doing this for everybody. Yeah, we shared some a lot of great stories on that. It's amazing the kind of stories you're going to tell when the next turn could be your last.
Yeah,
Those terrifying the Baja trips we were on. But anyway, the basically, I had been struggling in business for a long time. I was repairing windshields, so I was out, taking the little stone breaks and little cracks in the glass and fixing them, and really busting my butt for about 8 years. And after the 8th year, I had the best year in business ever, which was a whopping $8,000 income. Now, I was married, I had a kid, so as you can pretty much tell, the financial situation was the greatest. It wasn't the greatest. I had a mortgage, everything. I had to put on a credit card, or I had to get a mortgage or a loan or something, because obviously $8,000 wasn't going to buy a lot. My turning point really came when actually it was a series of things. So every morning when I woke up, the first thing I did is I turned on TV news because, of course, there could be nothing more important in the morning than finding out who got raped, who got murdered, who stole money from somebody, that crap that you get on the TV news. That's what I did every single morning. But one morning in particular, there was a story on there. It was kind of a brutal story. There was a young woman who was involved in an accident, and she was in a coma, and she had been in coma for several years. And the story was all about how an orderly there raped her while she was in a coma and impregnated her. And now the big fight was, what are they going to do with the baby?
right.
And man, that sickened me. I mean, it probably turned your stomach even just hearing that or even thinking of that. And it did me too. And I immediately jumped up. I turned off the TV and I thought, what the hell am I doing? It was at that point I realized I was kind of in the crappy situation I am, because all I was doing is putting crap in my mind. While I was, the first thing in the morning when there was a clean slate, I was putting the news into my head. When I was out repairing windshields, I was listening to talk radio all day and hearing all the crap of people pissing and moaning about things that they'll never be able to have an effect on, but they were more than willing to complain and let everybody hear about it. So of course that dominated my thoughts, and I turned it all off. I decided I was going to go cold turkey. I wasn't going to listen to that kind of stuff. I wasn't going to read the newspaper. None of the habits that I had to get rid of, because I realized, and I don't know why I realized, but I realized that that's, I think, where my problem was. So after listening to news, or my own cassettes at that time of music over and over and over, I got kind of tired of it. So I went down to the local library and picked up some cassettes. And I didn't know really what they were. I just remembered my mom talking about this guy named Zig Ziglar.
Right.
So I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and grab him. And you talk about my funny accent. If you heard Zig, that was hard for me to even understand in the very beginning.
Yeah. He's a Texan, right?
What's that?
He's a Texan, right?
I think Texas or Louisiana, somewhere down south. I mean, it's that Southern preacher sound. It's kind of difficult to get. So, and I started listening to it, and good messages. And I'm sure a lot of your watchers of this have probably done that and, listened to Zig Ziglar or something like that. But I listened to Zig over and over and over and over until I probably listened to those 6 cassettes 50 times. And then it was time to go down and get something else. So I got Jim Rohn and I got Tom Hopkins and nothing but motivational stuff. Well, then what happened? But I got a fax across the fax machine that Zig Ziglar was coming to my hometown, which is Cincinnati, Ohio. And I thought, well, I got to go see this guy. I mean, he's really kind of changed things around. People were noticing how I had an extra bounce in my step, how I wasn't talking that crap all the time, and I was much more enjoyable to be around. I was a much more positive person. So I went down to see Zig. One thing led to another, and at the end of that seminar, there was a guy named Dan Kennedy that popped on stage. Yeah. And his promise was, just sit back, relax, and the next hour I'm going to give you 99 ways to get customers. I thought, well, I need customers. Who doesn't need customers? And I listened to him talk about the importance of marketing. And, let
me just stop you for a second, because you mentioned something, before we started to record, and I think it's very important that you talk about this, because when you went to this event, you're making $8,000 a year. You can't really feed your family and pay your mortgage and live a life on that. And your wife Cindy said something to you before you left. What did she tell you again?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. She basically said, "Don't buy anything.
Yeah.
Don't have the money. The credit cards are maxed out. Don't buy anything, because I know you're gonna go, and I'm an easy person to sell to."
Yeah.
And she said, "Don't buy it. I already spent money to go to the seminar that we really didn't have." So she was really concerned about me buying something while I'm down there.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the first thing I did after listening to Zig Ziglar, I went back and bought his brand new audios, because they helped me so much. I really need to do it. Needed to get the information. Dan Kennedy talked about marketing, and he had something to buy, and boy, that was a really stretch. Yeah, that was a big stretch for me.
Yeah,
because I'd already spent money we didn't have. Now I'm going to spend more money we don't have. But in my mind, it kind of clicked and said, you know what? If this works, so I had to kind of suspend that disbelief that everybody has that, oh yeah, somebody's going to sell me something, I'm never going to use it, it's not going to work for me. I had it in my mind that I can get away with making this purchase if I just put into action what I was told by Dan on this program.
Right.
I can make the money back before I have to pay the bill, and that was my main motivation. And I did.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, immediately. The first thing out, because I was a crappy marketer before. Now I understood how to get customers. So the very first thing, I hit it out of the ballpark, because I did exactly what I was told to do.
So before you were repairing windshields, making $8,000 a year, and then you kind of applied these. I mean, you learned some new skills. You obviously improved where you were at. I mean, you turned off the garbage by getting rid of watching news.
Yeah, big time.
That's it's really funny, because I canceled my cable a couple of years ago. I haven't had cable since. And that crap that they feed you on the media about wars and somebody getting raped and dying and murders, they don't feed you anything that's useful. It's all crap. It's all nonsense. So turning that off obviously was a big point for you. But what were you doing when you switched over and you started making money and you were able to pay off that bill for the Dan Kennedy learning series on how to market? Like, were you still doing the same thing? Because I know that you're doing automotive marketing now.
Yeah, well, at the time I did nothing different other than I started marketing better, getting a better clientele, being a lot more busy, and I went from $8,000, making $8,000 net that year, to $8,000 per month within the next 12 months. So it didn't take me long to make that turnaround.
Right.
All I had to do was apply what somebody said would work for me. Well, then one thing led to another, and I because I became so good at doing marketing for windshield repair, other people in the industry were calling me saying, "Hey, what's going on here?"
Right.
I was a franchisee at the time, so there was the franchisor that was looking at, somebody. I was barely making my franchise payments for this, to all of a sudden I'm double, tripling, and quadrupling the amount of money, the minimum that I was supposed to, because, I was doing so well. So they started having people call, and I'd start doing these mini seminars on the phone with people. And you know what? Here's the problem. All those mini seminars I did, and I'm talking a mini seminar was a one-on-one, sort of like a consultation with somebody.
Yeah.
Where I would take an entire stack of all the marketing materials that were working for me, and I'd fax it over to them. It got up to be like 70 pages. I'd fax it over to that person. You know how much success they got from it?
How much?
Nothing.
Why?
Zero. Well, what did they invest in it? They invested a few minutes of their time.
Yeah.
They listened to me. They got all my stuff, but without that investment, they didn't do anything with it. So
they had no skin in the game.
Yeah, and some people have to kind of have that skin in the game in order to push it. So one thing I realized is,
why do you think that you were able to make that change? Like, why do you think that you were able to say, I'm living this life and this is where I'm going? Because I'm trying to bring this back to the clientele that we deal with that are basically drowning in debt. Like, where they end up going is they get on this merry-go-round, spinning around in circles, and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. And like I said earlier, 3 years ago they might have had 40 grand in debt. Now they have 80, and they think everything is still okay. It's all just fine. So, you made this change in your behavior to improve your lifestyle, make things better for your family and things like that. What was it that allowed that change to happen? Like, what was the catalyst? Like, what facilitated that?
I don't know where I got it, because I'd been listening to so much of these cassettes at the time but somebody said it's about time to get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. And I realized what I was doing is each time I took a step back, it was a little uncomfortable. Then I thought, oh, this is okay. This isn't bad. I can live with this. And then, it's just like putting on weight. When I got married, I weighed 235 pounds. I was in great shape, and I'm a big guy, so, it wasn't a lot of fat. Well, I had ballooned up to 280, and it took me 20 years to do that. And I didn't realize, just by those little incremental changes, because it happened so slow, I didn't realize it was happening. Well, the same thing was happening when I was sliding backwards in my income. Is a little bit less each day wasn't so bad. It's not like I lost it all overnight. Your clientele, they're $40,000 in debt. All of a sudden, they're $80,000 in debt. For a lot of them, I'm going to guess it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
It was that slow digression back and back and back to the point where now they look at it and say, "Holy crap! Look at where I am now, and look where I was. I'm in worse shape."
Right.
Well, at some point, somebody said something that I had to look at it and say, where are you? Where do you need to be? And are you any closer, or are you further away? And I kept sliding further and further away, and I got myself to be real uncomfortable with that fact. And I looked at what was the things I needed to do to turn it around, and I only focused on that. I forgot about all the other crap, and I thought I got to get rid of this problem because it's the biggest problem I got.
Right. Awesome. Okay. So now you're doing, I guess, coaching and you're helping auto repair shops market their business. Mm-hmm. What's life like for you today since you've made that change and you've gotten off this like skipping across the bottom thing? I mean, I see the stuff that you post on Facebook because we're friends there. I mean, you have an awesome life. You've got a beautiful wife and family. You've got great cars and toys that you play with. You take vacations. I've seen you working from your backyard by the pool with your laptop. You've got a great lifestyle. What's going on in your world today?
Well, it really is. I focus on mindset 100%, and if I have the right frame of mind and I take the right steps, and look, I'm not a trailblazer. That's the last thing that anybody needs to think about me, that I blaze new trails. No, I look at successful people and I do exactly what they do.
Yeah.
See, in order to be success, you have to take positive steps every day. And I'm not talking the woo-woo or, you got to be so darn positive and fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, if I want to get somewhere, am I going to get somewhere by taking a little baby step there, or am I going to take a step towards making a stride there?
Yeah.
And I kind of developed something, and we didn't talk about this before, but real quick, if I can kind of lay this on you.
Yeah, go.
I think I realized why somebody that might be $80,000 in debt thinks that's totally insurmountable to get out of debt, or $40,000 or $10,000 or wherever they're at. It's because they're looking at it like trying to eat an elephant, right? If you're $40,000 in debt, that's a huge thing that just, God, how are you going to get out of that?
Yeah.
Well, the way you get out of it isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to be a series of right decisions made every single day. You have to make the right decision. And real quickly, is this a decision that takes me sideways, backwards, or forwards? And if you have a goal to get out of debt, buy a car, find a wife, whatever it is, the decision has to be towards where you want to go, not sideways, not at an angle. It's got to be directly towards that. And then it's a matter of taking a baby step to start, but then it's a stride, and then it's a jump, and then pretty soon that momentum starts going. But a lot of people try to take too big of a chunk right up front, and it scares the crap out of them.
Yeah, that's true. So let me just touch on two things before we wrap up. So first of all, you mentioned, and I just made a note of it here, is, you look at successful people and basically do what they do. And there's a concept that I learned a few years ago from a guy who kind of mentored me for a bit, and he was talking about R&D. And R&D does not stand for research and development. In the entrepreneurial world and life in general, I think R&D stands for rip off and duplicate. And you basically find patterns and see what successful people are doing. Like, if you want to get to that point, if you want to be debt free, if you want to have that house or the car or the business or the life that you want, you basically look at what they're doing, you copy their behaviors. A guy that's facilitated a retreat for an entrepreneurial group that I'm a mastermind member of basically talks about habits. And it's what you just mentioned there prior is, you take these little baby steps and you think to yourself, with every step that you take, is what I'm going to do right now get me closer to my goal, move me sideways, or move me backwards? Where's it going to take me? And you just make that the filter. You can always tell how somebody thinks and what their belief system is by looking at the results that they get out of life. Because you cannot change that. I mean, if your belief system is thinking about going backwards, you're not going to get those forward results, right? Anyway, so we talked about 16 minutes. I really want to thank you for taking some time to, have a chat with me so I can share this with my audience. Where can people find you if they own an auto repair shop and need some help with marketing?
Just go to repairshopcoach.com, or better yet, just look me up on Facebook. That's probably best, because I'm not just in the auto repair space. I have several companies, and I work with entrepreneurs as well too. So just look me up on Facebook, friend me. It's Ron Ipach, spelled RONIPACH, and you'll get a little better handle of everything that I do.
Cool. And I'll throw a link to that in the comments of the video for YouTube. And if you got any questions, guys, throw them in the comments, and I'll be happy to ask, for entrepreneurs anything that you want answered. So thanks again, Ron.
Thank you. Take care.
See you, man.